Okay.
Welcome. Good morning, Daily Huddle family, and welcome back for another bright and shiny Monday morning here in Charleston, South Carolina. Wherever you are, I hope it's bright and shiny, at least in between your ears. We've got a lot of good stuff to talk about. I'm still very excited about the new year. One of the things we're going to talk about today is, what does that mean? But before we get started, we always like to share a little joke with you. So I want to talk about the snowman's New Year's resolution. Who can tell me what the snowman's New Year's resolution was?
To have his nose fixed.
Have a nose job.
To chill out more.
That's just terrible.
Sex jokes usually are terrible. If you haven't noticed.
I love them.
I can do another one when we finish with the video.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Huddle. I'm Kimberly, and my husband Zack is our co-host today. So we love to see your faces every Monday morning. Talking about money, right? Super fun topic. Today we're going to talk about, our question is, new year, new you, right? Is that a question? Is that a statement?
There's an or in between those. New year or new you.
Oh, well, I think maybe I skipped
both,
the or,
right?
Whatever. But before we get started, we have a couple of things that we're going to talk about first, right, Zack?
Yeah, I think that the concept of a New Year's resolution is an interesting one.
Yes, question.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
It's like, don't skip the beginning.
See habits. We're going to talk about habits. I got to get into these. All right. Let me see. Who am I looking at? Kimberly. What time is it, and what are you grateful for?
Good question. The time is now. The time is always now, and especially in January at the new year. And I'm grateful for opportunity.
I am too. That's a good one. All right. Rashida, I don't see your face, but I can hear your voice maybe. Where are you, and who will you hug today?
Good morning, family Daily Huddle. Can you hear me?
A little bit. Yep.
Okay, I am at the tire shop, rotating my tire, and I'm going to hug myself and my dog.
All right. And Sorrel, how are you?
Good morning, Zach. Good morning, everyone. I am the way I say I am. And this morning, I am happy.
Very nice. Very nice. I see it on your face.
Outstanding. Well, I love that. And I'm glad that Kimberly caught me before I glazed over the questions, because that puts us in the right mindset, right? Puts us where we're supposed to be, and which is right. We are right where we are supposed to be right now. And that's what's so exciting to me is, like I said earlier on pre-call, we just came back from a national conference with one of the companies or with our company that we work with. And it's always interesting we do one in July usually and one in January. And there's a lot of goal setting and a lot of things that go on throughout that process. And so we started talking between ourselves and our group that were there about what is a New Year's resolution, and why is January 1st or December 31st to January 1st, why is that a big deal? I'm a curious person, right? So I looked up New Year's resolutions to see how far back they went and where they came from. And actually, it's from what I've found, the first New Year's resolutions were 4,000 years ago with ancient Babylonians. And it was all about every year, they either crowned a new king or they renewed their commitment to the current king. So that was a big thing. But they also promised to repay their debts and to be kind, or else, right? So, and they were all scared of pagan gods and things like that might happen. So maybe their motivation was a little bit different than ours might be. But I think taking that just for fun, find that out and go all the way to now. And what does it take to actually not make a resolution, but to stick with one? And I found several different things while I was looking that were very interesting to me. And the first one is that in order to actually make a new habit or form a new habit, usually it follows a significant emotional experience. And I think that significant emotional experience is probably what the New Year's brings on, right? It's like I'm putting the past behind me and I'm going to start off in the right direction. So we might have to create that significant emotional experience for ourselves. But there were several pieces to this that play a role. And I think if we're going to make changes, and we're going to talk about making changes in our finances, Kimberly is in just a second, and how to make those and how to stick with those. But I think in general, if we talk about how to make changes in ourselves, it comes to understanding that we're different than everybody else. And just because one person can say today, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and in a week they've done it, doesn't mean that everybody's going to do that, right? So we have to give ourselves a minute. And so the individual circumstances was number 2. So it's a significant emotional experience followed by understanding my individual circumstances and looking at my character and self-discipline. I think number 3 is really the character and self-discipline piece is really where a lot of folks are differentiated because some people are in a place where they really want to change, right? Maybe they hate their job. Maybe they're very frustrated with themselves physically or, something like that. And they have a different set of motivation. So finding that motivation, and then external accountability was number 4. Talk about it. Make a commitment to yourself, but then talk about it. Tell other people about that commitment so that then you have that external push to do those kind of things. Your level of commitment to that change or to that habit is number 5. You got to see where that level of commitment is. Is it more important to you to have that soft drink or that feeling you get or whatever it is? Maybe it's a cup of coffee in the morning, you're having too many and you want to scale it back. Is the feeling you get from doing that more important than the feeling you would get for being successful in making the change? So find your level of commitment. From a retirement perspective or from a financial planning perspective, what is the result going to be if you make that commitment? And is it worth making the change today? And then the size of the habit, right? So the biggest goal, the biggest recommendation that I've seen from every expert around that I've talked to is make small, tangible goals that you can mark. So when we say in 2023, I'm going to change, that means I got 12 months to do that, right? So that means that in my personal way of doing things, that means I'm going to spend the first 11 months, saying I still have time, right? I'm not going to put urgency on it. So I think if we make those small habits, and I think make those changes that say, not just this year or this month or this week or today, what am I going to do right when I get off of this call? What am I going to do right now that's going to put me going in the right direction for those things? So this is a great topic in general, but I think that we spend so much time, or a lot of people do, on social media. Some of you guys are watching from Facebook, and what we see is the best of people's worlds. We see what they want us to see, right? And so we compare ourselves, our entire life, to the best of other people's lives, right? And we do see tragedy and those kind of things too, but usually when somebody's putting a post out there, they're on vacation or they're traveling with their family or they're doing something and you're looking around saying, well, I'm not doing that. So the biggest part about making a change in you is realizing it's you that has to change. And it's not really anything about the date on the calendar. It's not really anything about what somebody else is doing or what your neighbor's doing. It's finding out how to change in between your ears and then put your feet walking down that path. So I'll let Kimberly apply those things and how to change and make a good strategic move in your finances. So
I wish I had a picture of it. I don't know that I do. Zach, you can play around while I'm talking, see if you can find it. But there's this great graphic that we have and that we use a lot, and it's just a cartoon image. Do you have that?
I do, but I'll see if I can find it here.
Maybe you can get it up, maybe not. Well, I'll just describe it to you just in case. But basically, it's this room full of people, and there's a speaker in front of the room, and he says, "Who wants change?" And everybody in the room raises all of their hands, right? So you can envision the entire room is full of hands raised. And then he changes it just by one word, and he says, who wants to change? And all of the hands go down except for one. And I think that's a big piece of it, right? Is we all want change. All of us, we all want change. But actually wanting to change is a little more uncomfortable, right? Because that means I have to work inside myself and do things for myself that are going to make me uncomfortable, that I might not want to do. So when we talk about changes and New Year's resolutions, especially when we apply it to our finances, I think the first place to start is always your own financial review, right? To sit down the beginning of the year and say, who am I? Who do I want to be? How do I get there? And put that plan together. Whether you do that by yourself, whether you do that with an advisor, whoever you choose to allow to help you, but sit down and look at those pieces of your life. And I'm just going to share this quick little PowerPoint just to kind of walk you through it and let you see. But it's that time of year again, right? It's time for a financial checkup. It's time for us to sit down. We know January's New Year's resolutions. We know January is the time to talk about our goals and dreams and what we're going to change and what we're going to have one day, right? But it's also time to do that internal reflection of where you are personally, where you are financially. So it's time for a financial checkup. How do you start? What do you do? The first thing that you do is you create your personal financial inventory. You list your assets. What do you have? What do you actually have out there? Cars, houses, retirement accounts, cash in your mattress. Hopefully you don't have a lot of cash in your mattress, but anyway, right? Anything of value to you is valuable. So write it down as your assets, and then you need to list your debts, good or bad. You need to put them on paper. You need to have that meeting with yourself that allows you to be true and say, here's where I am. Right? Review your credit report. I think it's a great time of year to go to Credit Karma or somewhere like that, or pull one of those free reports that doesn't actually hurt your credit score and look and see what's on there. Not only can you see your actual list of debts that you have, you can compare it with each other, but you can also look for any changes or any mistakes or anything out there that you might need to deal with, which is important, right? It's important to make sure that that part of our life is caught up and reviewed, and also review your recurring monthly expenses. So we talk all the time about people and their budgets and their mindset and their mentality, and most of the time people take their income and what they're making and they try to squeeze everything out of it into this budget to make it fit what their goals and dreams are. In reality, it's probably not where they need to spend the majority of their time. They probably need to spend 5% of their time, so maybe twice a year, maybe, looking at all of these pieces, the assets, the debts, the credit report, the monthly recurring expenses. But I would say in January and July, sit down and look at those pieces and see where you are. See if you have those, accidental subscriptions that you put your credit card in because you really wanted the free trial for 7 days because you needed it for 5 minutes, right? But then you forgot to delete it. And now you're like, what is this $15 a month coming out of my account? Those pieces add up. So do that. Start there. So you just have a list of what it looks like. What does your financial inventory look like? And then I want you to start looking at your financial goals. Set a budget, whether you need an app to set a budget. We've talked about several different pieces on here or apps on here before. We've talked about, there's one called YNAB, which is You Need a Budget. There's one called Mint that people really love. You guys taught me about Digit, which I think, I don't know if it's a budgeting app, but it's at least an app that allows you to save without really knowing that you're saving, which sometimes is important. But establish a budget so you know what that looks like. Even if you're on commission, we talk about this all the time. Even if you're on commission, because a lot of us are, you still need to know what your minimum required expenses are. You still need to know what that looks like every single month. Create an emergency fund. Your goal should be to have 3 to 6 months income in an account set aside for an emergency. If it's not possible, it doesn't mean don't do it. it means start, right? So look at that, see where you are with that. Reduce your credit debt. That's most people's biggest goal when we sit down and say, if I could wave a magic wand and tomorrow looks exactly like you want it to look like, what is that? They say they want to be debt free, right? Most people say that. So we might, just like an emergency fund, we might not can start from zero and have 6 months immediately. Same thing with our credit debt. We might not can start from where we are with our credit debt to have zero immediately, but we can put a plan together to do both of those simultaneously. And step number 4 is review your life insurance. It is very, 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 very important, obviously, for your plan to be self-completing, for you to have life insurance. Rule of thumb, just really quick, we've talked about it before. We use the method, the DIME method, and that's debt, income, mortgage, and education, to decide how much life insurance that you need. Most people, even if they have life insurance, only have it through their employer. It's important to have life insurance outside of work because most of the time people get sick before they die. And if they get sick while they're employed and they can't keep working, the life insurance goes away, right? So it's important to have that outside of work, but it's also important to have enough. Typically, debt, income, mortgage, and education, add our debt together, add our income times however many years you want that income to last. So if I have a 10-year-old, I want that income to last for at least 10 years. If I have a baby, I probably want it to last 10 years or 20 years, right? Mortgage and education, but review your life insurance, review the policies that you have, make sure that they're still applicable to your life today, and look at those pieces when you're setting your financial goals for this year. Same thing with your retirement savings. Determine your retirement nest egg. That's probably going to change as your income increases and as your income changes over time. You might need more retirement savings, or we're in a recession, going into a recession. As that changes, if your account dips, your number might not change, but you got more to make up, right? So look at that, review your 401k and your investment contributions. Make sure that you're maxing out your free money. If your company is giving you a 5% match, do a 5% match. If they're giving you, if you're putting in 10% and they're only matching 5%, maybe there's somewhere different that you can put that difference. So sit down with a professional and ask them, what should I do? What does this look like? And then finally meet with your investment advisor to discuss your changes. Here's where I am. Here's my financial inventory. This is what my life looks like. Are we good? Are we on the right track? That is their job, right? It's our job. Everybody in this world, our goal is to make sure that you meet your goals. So let us help you. Let us help you with that. But finally, work on building an alternative income stream. So many of us spend 95% of our time reviewing our expenses. We look at our income, we look at our expenses, and we look at how we can shave that down. I'm going to switch my phone from Verizon to T-Mobile because it's cheaper and it's going to save me $100 a month. And then I'm going to take that $100 a month and I'm going to put it back in my spreadsheet and I'm going to make it go further. And that's really how we live our lives, thinking about how we can manage our money, right? Part of that is necessary, but in my opinion, that should be 5% of your time, because those numbers for the most part don't change, right? Your mortgage payment, your rent payment for the most part is what it is. It's not going to be a significant increase or decrease. So we pretty much know what that looks like. Same with our power and our water and our car payment and our phone payment. We can change it, $50, a couple $100 a month, but it's not going to be significant. Also, same thing goes with our income. If you're in an employed type situation, the probability of you having a significant raise, you might have a big raise or a good raise, but a significant one that's going to change your life plan, change your financial plan, isn't probable, right? So what can you focus on? What can you control outside of those pieces that you manage? How do you increase it? Look for alternative sources of income. We talk about this all of the time. I know a lot of you guys on the call today are entrepreneurs, but it has never been easier in our world to go out and make extra money, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's cutting people's grasses, whether it's getting a license and coming to work with us, whether it's life coaching, whatever it is, have an Etsy store, whatever your interest is, figure it out. But in order to reach some of your financial goals, sometimes most of the time, probably, you're going to have to make more money. So put that in your financial plans this year. Look at building an alternative income stream and see where you are in December. See how that helps you move forward in all those goals that you set. But I would tell you to do this definitely once a year, maybe even twice a year, but no more than that. Because you don't need to sit down and look at, like I said, your budget and all of your expenses more than twice a year, because they're not going to be significant changes.
Yeah, I think that was a great layout of those things. And so as we normally do, we'll open up for some Q&A and some discussion. There may not be as many questions as there are just discussions about what we're talking about today. But I was going to give you my runner-up joke because I thought it was pretty good too. So before we go that way, I'll give you my runner-up.
The king of cheesy jokes over here.
Yeah. So I always avoid the gym the first 2 weeks of the year because it's too crowded. I also avoid the gym weeks 2 through 52. I'm just looking for an excuse. So,
See, cheesy.
Who's got questions or comments this morning or wants to share?
I think we need to hire a comedian to do Zach's morning jokes.
All right. Well, I find it baby steps, right? And so if you've got questions about what baby steps might be, and the other thing, Kimberly talked about seeing financial advisors. There are people out there that will do that kind of help and sit down without charging. A lot of times folks think that they have to have, X amount of dollars to go sit down with somebody, or that it's going to cost them an arm and a leg to get some professional advice. And there are people that will do that without charging. We happen to be some of those people, but just make sure that you don't go spend money for a plan when a plan is not something you need to buy. If you're in a complex scenario, high net worth, or you've got inheritance that's coming and you need to know how to deal with that or those kind of things, then somebody on the starting end of that can help you find the right professional. We work with people that are experts all the way across the spectrum of finance. So don't feel like you have to pay for good financial advice. I don't feel like that's necessary. But as far as starting small, or just getting started, it's as easy as opening a savings account and starting toward that emergency fund, so that when you do have a car malfunction, or you have to put new tires on or whatever, you can dip into savings instead of putting it on that credit card at 23% interest, 24% interest. That's the big thing there. So
I just bought a book. I haven't read it yet, but I will read it and I will report back. But it's called Atomic Habits, and you guys might have read it. You might not have read it. If you read it, Chase, I also bought your book, Power of the Subconscious Mind. So I have that with me as well. So you're welcome. Thank you for teaching me about that. So anyway, but I haven't read Atomic Habits. Chase, you obviously have, so you can jump in here. But I've seen a lot of people talk about it. A lot. I think it was super hot last year. I think is when it kind of really came on the market and when it became really popular. But the people that I've watched talk about it, Atomic Habits starts with what tiny little small changes that you can do every day, and ultimately ends up with a big goal. So Chase, you want to talk about that for just a second? Stacy, I see your hand too, so I'll talk to you for a minute. But have you read the book?
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's one of my top books. Atomic Habits is a serious book. And when I say serious, I mean the gems that it drops really hit you. They're very meticulous and small, which is like Zach was saying, like baby steps. That book and the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit. I just forgot his last name. Those two books break down a lot of different things about money, about it's just a fabulous book. I don't want to take up too much time, but yes, an amazing book. Everyone should get it, because I'll go too long-winded, but thank you for sharing that.
Well, I'm going to report back because it's going to be here tomorrow from Amazon. But I know it's a great book, and I know it applies exactly what we're talking about. I just haven't read it yet, so I can't speak intelligently about it. Stacy. And you're muted, Stacy, so I don't know if you Oh, there you go.
Hello, this is Joy Sonia on Stacy's phone. Can you hear me?
I
We
can
can.
hear you. Hey, Joy Sonia.
Hello. So, you were talking about how, when we kind of look at the year, a year is just so far to plan out, even months, we might think that we just have more time. And it just got me thinking of execution. And I use the 12-week year. And it is an execution system for executing your goals. A lot of time, we'll have goals, but how do we execute, and are we executing the right things? Usually it's those things that we don't want to do. And so it just got me thinking of the 12-week goal. And you were saying, what are you doing today? What are you doing right after this? And we actually have a weekly work session right after this, 9:30 until 11, where we execute our goals Monday through Friday. Because you're right, it's not what you do yearly, it's not what you do monthly, it is what you do daily that leads into the week, that leads into the month, that leads into the year, that actually makes the change in your finances and every other part of your life. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there.
I appreciate you sharing very, very much. The 12-week year, I'm going to put it here in this chat. If I can spell, I'll put that there as well. But that's great information. So I appreciate you sharing that. Anything like that, those tools that we all have, that we've all been exposed to differently, right? That work with us, to me, is what this podcast is all about, is sharing our information, sharing our stories, sharing our knowledge, so we all grow together. So I appreciate you guys that are sharing. Anybody else have anything that they want to say this morning?
I want to throw one thing out there about, all of these books are great, I'm sure. And Kimberly reads a lot more than I do. I read a lot of books about self-growth and self-development and those kind of things. But it's funny because we've talked a lot, Kimberly and I have, about, the right meal plan. I know we talk here about being plant-based, and we talk about those kind of things. Planning and execution require something, and that is to stick to a plan in order to execute it. So when you inundate yourself with all different types of options, all of which may work, then you end up having to be creative about how am I going to apply each piece to these things. So what I would tell you to do, what my recommendation for myself is to pick a plan, a plan to financial independence, and stick with it and let it work. Pick a plan to eat plant-based and stick with it and let it work. Pick a plan to self-development and stick with it and let it work. Don't be afraid to change. And Napoleon Hill said, make a plan and begin immediately, but always be willing to change and be flexible. So
not on the ultimate goal, but how you get there.
You're getting there. So don't get inundated and fill your mind up with all these different things. A confused mind does nothing. So stick with something that you can learn and implement now. And if it doesn't work, when you look back and reevaluate, then change. But don't get lost in trying to decide how you're going to fix yourself or how you're going to fix your finances and do that for another year. Set a goal, begin immediately, and then look back and reevaluate. So, Thorell?
You've mentioned this on several occasions. You can't save yourself into being wealthy. However, you can increase the amount of money you make, and with a good plan to invest, you can become wealthy. And the one thing you mentioned was, you could get a license and become part of our team. I know you won't have time to talk about that now, but I'd love it if you could open it up to the rest of the world to hear what it's like to actually create that as an alternative stream of income.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love to share. Thank you for bringing it up. It obviously changed our lives. You guys might know or might not know, Zack and I were both school teachers. So we can have that story and have that, we can go back in time and show you the journey, right? All the way to where we are now. But yeah, we would love to share that. So thanks, Sorrel, for bringing that up and mentioning it.
All right, guys. Well, it's time to go out and do whatever we're going to do right now. Right. So before we leave, let's remember the 8 things we focus on. Number 1, love. Laugh out loud. stress less, like the snowman, chill out more, right? Eat mostly plant-based. Give, that's one of my big goals this year. Serve more. Sleep, get some sleep. I'm glad to be back in my own bed. We're gonna get some sleep. Move, get up when you go somewhere, move around, get your mind focused. And then lastly, but not least, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Guys, we will see you tomorrow on the Daily Huddle.
Thanks, guys.